It's on.
It's on now.
Okay, well, welcome. Good afternoon and welcome to the Cowichan Community Center Commission meeting for September 10th of 2020. I am the chair today, Loriani DiNardo, and first order of business is a motion to allow electronic meetings. That pursuant to the ministerial order number M192 and the Cowichan Valley Regional District CBRD Restoration of the Services Plan, the attendance of the public at this September 10th, 2020 Cowichan Community Center Commission meeting cannot be accommodated in accordance with the applicable requirements or recommendations under the Public Health Act. Because of limitations on mass gatherings and the inability to provide for adequate physical distancing with the full commission, staff and members of the public present in the boardroom, and the commission is ensuring openness, transparency, accessibility, and accountability for the meetings by 1, providing notice of the meeting, 2, making the meeting agenda as well as all other relevant documents available on the CVRD website. 3, providing email notification of publications of the agendas to subscribers. 4, archiving meeting video for future viewing by the members of the public. And 5, continuing to investigate options to facilitate public participation. And that the Cowichan Community Center Commission meeting of September 10th be held electronically and in the absence of the public in accordance with the ministerial order M192 and the CVRD Restoration of Services Plan. That is my motion. I have a seconder. Been seconded. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Madam Chair, can we amend that motion to so we don't have to redo this all the time until, let's say, this motion until a further ministerial order has been granted, or because at North Cowichan we don't do this all the time. That's what we've done at North Cowichan.
This is orders from Ms. Legault, and I can look into that, but this now is what came from the Legislative Services, so I don't want to amend that now, but maybe in the future. Okay.
Point of information.
Yes.
We do the same thing at Duncan. We don't read it out. It's just at the top of all the posted agendas.
Okay, I've not seen this before, but this is something that Ms. Legault has given us, and we'll go ahead with that at this time. So I'd like to also acknowledge that we are holding this meeting, all of us on the Coast Salish territories. And so with that, I'd like to move the approval of the agenda. Moved, seconded. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Seeing none, motion's carried. An adoption of the minutes. We have the Cowichan Community Center Commission meeting minutes of December 12th, 2019. To move those. If there's any questions, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And we now have M2, which is the special Cowichan Community Center Commission meeting of July 13th, 2020. Looking for a mover. Moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Any business arising from the minutes? Not seeing any business arising from the minutes. Of course, there wouldn't be any public input at this time. We'll go straight to reports, and it is R1, a verbal report from the facility coordinator, North Central Cowichan, for information. So who would that be?
That's Brad. I'm wondering.
I'm back. Yeah, hi.
Oh, he's back at the beach. The beach is distracting, isn't it?
It is. Very.
Welcome, Brad. You're on.
Thanks. give you a quick 4-point update of sort of what's happened through since the last meeting. Our chiller is now pretty much complete, and the other projects that were linked that part of the project are also on order. So we're just waiting on equipment for the installs, which will both be complete by October, November this year. So far, everything's going well. Parking lot paving, if anybody's noticed, is being completed at the north end of the building. We are just waiting on parking lot lines, which I was on the phone just moments ago with the line painter, so they're hopefully teeing that up in the next week. The old front pool, the old aquatic facility, the doors are in desperate need of replacement. They're a bit of a security issue, so we've ordered new doors for there. We had some money in minor capital this year for that, and we've got those on order for October. And last but not least, the fans and dehumidifier for the arena also are on order, and we're scheduled for probably install of October, maybe early November. So,
Thank you. Are there any, is that the end of your report?
yeah.
Brad, thank you. Any questions for Director Manhas? Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Coleman, is that the front doors for the old aquatic center, or the?
Yeah, correct.
Or
It's the original, the original 44-year-old doors that are, just you can't even get parts for them anymore. And we've been trying to kind of band-aid them to make them secure, but we've had a few issues where they just don't quite latch sometimes. So we've ordered a unit that can be taken out if there is a big renovation eventually in that area and reused. So, we're trying to kind of think ahead that it still might be a fixture, spending the money now, but we can still use it if there's a rental.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Are there any more questions for Mr. Coleman? Director Duncan, go ahead.
Do you need a motion to accept the report?
No, we do not. Okay. And so we will now move on to R2, verbal report from the manager of Arts and Culture Division. And we may move to Ms. Schrader. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Madam Chair. So what to report? The theater remains closed. We are open for live streaming business, and if you've read my report, which we'll address later on in this agenda, we can talk more about potentially attracting a few more or some business. We were hoping for some live streaming business, but right now there's a couple of groups circling the idea, but really it's not sustainable for them. It's not financially affordable for them if they can't get any ticket revenue in return. So hopefully that will pick up in the new year, but at this point things look a little bit bleak. We have 3 full-time staff who remain at the theater, plus myself. We've got 5 full-time and part-time staff on layoff. We don't expect any of the full-time and part-time staff on layoff to be recalled at this time for the rest of 2020. There may be some casual tech hours for one of those assistant technical directors as soon as we can get some rental business, but that would be on a casual basis. We wouldn't be recalling a full-time or even a part-time assistant technical director for 2020. The first 2 quarters of 2021 look to be similar. We are hoping for a little bit more business late in the spring of 2021, but as we all know, it depends how things go this winter. We are I'm doing a lot of advocacy work. There's a lot of awareness needing to be generated, I'm finding, about how civic theaters, ours is included in that category, have fallen through the cracks of funding from both the province and the federal governments. I've been on several calls this week, as several last week. It's been about 3 or 4 weeks now of constant opportunities for me to speak about how we aren't receiving any subsidies. We aren't obviously eligible for the wage subsidy, so we haven't been able to retain our staff, unlike our colleagues and competitors running nonprofit theaters who have been able to retain all of their full-time staff, many of their part-time staff, and they are planning to reopen. And they've also received grants from both the province and the federal government, as well as top-up funding of existing grants that they are all eligible for. But we aren't. Civic theaters are ineligible for all the funding that's out there. The problem with this, of course, is that we are all on a network. And so our theater plays a big part in that network. And so if one of the major components of that network falls away, then the touring network is affected for the other theaters. As well, our relationships with agents and managers are compromised. Those take years of effort to build. So it isn't just a matter of, I get a call and a show wants to come in. It's often not that simple. It takes a lot of work to bring shows to us. So we are losing that momentum. Just to really illustrate how bad this is, I'm on an informal group of other theater managers on the island, and one of them, who's very similar to us and does similar shows, let us know that by the end of December, they will have received $400,000 in wage subsidy and grant funding. And so that's why some theaters are reopening, and they're, theaters are bringing Randy Bachman and Alex Cuba and all these names you see are out there. They are doing that with funding that we aren't eligible for. And so my advocacy has been to raise the awareness at both levels of government that we aren't eligible for that, because they say, isn't it great? We've put so much money in the arts and culture industry, and they don't understand that they've made us ineligible. They are assuming that the local government is picking up those pieces, but of course that isn't the way things work. And so we've just been cut out, and there's been a very unequal, unfair playing field created through this that could take quite some time to rebalance, because we are becoming more and more further behind. So that's a big part of my job. I think that there is finally at least awareness being generated. There's letters going out from art service organizations that we are members of, and speaking opportunities for me, but I don't see the dollars yet, but there's promises of more funding coming in the future. So hopefully they will recognize that there's a whole sector of the theater business that hasn't been a part of this. In BC, there aren't many civic theaters or theaters connected to universities, which is in the same situation as us. But in Alberta, there's mostly civic theaters, and there's many in Ontario. So across the country, this is a big issue. This isn't just a provincial issue at all. Mostly in BC, they're nonprofits, actually. So we're one of only 4 that includes university-run theaters as well as civic theaters. So that's what most of my time is right now. I am toying with the idea of asking the commission or the CDRD board to consider writing a letter to our MP. Other jurisdictions have done that, and their mayor and council or their regional districts have written letters. So I think that there may be you may see a request coming forward for that in the future. And the other 2 important news pieces to tell you are, so those of you who weren't at the Community Services Committee yesterday may not know that the Community Services Committee approved the request for the theater to be bundled with 2 other projects in the South End Recreation and Couch and Lake Recreation to apply for a federal infrastructure grant. So the theater is part of this, and the committee approved the application going forward. So now we're going to be writing an application with Rob Williams, who put all that together. Thank you, Rob, for doing that. Rob put together quite a vision for a theater renovation last minute with very little time. So thank you to Jim and Rob for both your hard work with very little time in doing that. And it's exciting because the theater, as you know, we've had equipment upgrades, and we've had lots of great new technology that's been made available, but we haven't actually updated the lobby or the services that the patrons use since it was built in 1978. So the washrooms are small and they're not wheelchair accessible. So part of the renovation is that those would be made bigger, especially the women's. And the washrooms are made wheelchair accessible, as well as relocate the concession into the boardroom to allow for the washroom expansion, and still keep the boardroom as a multi-purpose rental space, but it'll look a little bit different. You can let me know if you want more details on how that looks. And then replacing the theater seats, which are also original to the building from 1978, and adding a possibility of 90 removable seats in what's called the orchestra pit at the front of the stage, with hydraulic lifts that Brad has come up with a really great plan to build, way cheaper than what you can buy packaged already for theaters. So that's great, Brad. We're excited about that. And that would allow us to either use the orchestra pit if a renter wants the orchestra, which isn't used as much as it used to be, or add in 90 more seats, which expands the revenue potential for those sold out shows that really could use those extra 90 seats. And we create a wait list often for those shows. And what it also does is it gets us to the magic number of 800 seats, which is the magic number for large global agencies like Live Nation, who really don't rent theaters if they have less than 800 seats, because it's really a numbers formula for them. It's all about the return and on these big names. And so we need that 800 seats to do more business with them. It makes us much more competitive on the island. So that's very exciting for us if that goes ahead. So we'll be writing that. Well, actually, Rob, I think, is writing that, writing that grant, and we'll be helping him. And then we don't hear, I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Rob. Do you want to speak?
Sure. I guess the only thing to add is that the deadline is October 1st for the application. So we'll be working over the next couple of weeks to put all that together. And yeah, as Kirsten's mentioning, we won't hear back from the grant administrators until anticipated summer of next year, 2021. So hopefully we're successful.
Yeah, or as Terry says, probably likely fall, because that happened with the chiller grant, right? So we're probably looking at not starting this project until early 2022 if we get the funding. But it's exciting, and I think, I mean, I know the timing seems odd, but at the same time, we have to take these opportunities for infrastructure grants when they come. They're rare for theaters, so this is a big opportunity for us. So fingers crossed, that'd be exciting if we got it. And the one other thing I wanted to let you know is there is a national movement called, let me just get the right name. It's called Live Event. And it's based out of Toronto, and it's a national movement of lighting up theater signs across the country in red to show that the sector has been so hard hit and that theater workers are not back at work, and the impact that it's had on artists. It's on September 22nd, a one-day light up. And I wanted to ask the Commission's thoughts, and if you would approve us working with Brad. Heads up, Brad, I don't think I've talked to you about this, but lighting the sign that says Couch and Performing Arts Center on the front of the building in red, taking a photo of it and sharing that on social media so that we're showing that we're part of this national movement. That's it.
Great. There was a lot there. So I have Director Manhas and then Director Sowry. Director Manhas, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Schrader, I think that's a great idea to be part of the live event from Toronto, lighting up in red. Can we also not recommend doing that for the hockey stick too that night?
Yes, Terry and I talked about that. So I think that that's very doable.
Okay. Also, what does the budget look like for the rest of the year, given the circumstances we're currently in, with no revenue coming in?
Yes, we are hoping to offset the projected deficit, which is now hovering around 13,500. That's after drastic staffing layoffs, as I mentioned. 15 staff, including casuals, have been laid off. And after cutting back almost every account, there's almost no spending happening. We were hoping that some of the business that would be generated this fall would be meetings for the CBRD. North Cowichan was interested at one point in meetings. So we'll see. We're not sure right now. It doesn't sound like we're going to get many of those meetings. So the report that's coming later and the agenda is an opportunity to stay in line with what other theaters are doing, as well as potentially attracting a little bit of business to offset that deficit.
So we're looking at,
Oh, sorry.
so we're looking at about
Follow-up,
13.
Director Manhas?
So we're looking at about $13,000 deficit.
Yes, although when we met, Terry, Brad, Micah, and I met today to talk budgets. It's a preliminary meeting. We're having more meetings in the next 2 weeks. There are other costs that are significantly lower than expected. So we are, for example, hydro is, I think Brad said, was it at 32% or something, Brad? I mean, with the theater closed, you can imagine the hydro bill is going to be a lot less than usual. And so some of that savings will trickle down to the theater and offset that budget a bit more. Or offset, sorry, the projected deficit.
Awesome. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Elzinga.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To assist Ms. Schrader, to Director Manhas's question, when we talk about a $13,000 deficit, that's specific to function 426. With the Couch Community Center, we have 4 different functions. When Ms. Askham talks as part of her report, she's going to talk about the budget for the other 3 functions. But my understanding is that overall, we still remain in a surplus position with those 4 functions. It's just the theater that has been hardest hit. And I do compliment the facility staff for the most recent project of the paving at the north end, which was significantly under budget for this year.
Wonderful. Do you have another follow-up, Director Manhas?
No, that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Your microphone, please. I just wondered, I'm checking with staff, do we need a motion for the approval for the live event for the red lights, or does that? Go ahead, Ms. Askham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it would be appropriate. When we did establish guidelines, they didn't include events that might be of a somewhat political nature, with the understanding those would come to the commission. So that's why Kirsten wanted to bring it to your attention today.
Okay, so we'll be looking for if there is a commission member that would like to make a motion for the September 22nd live event for the red lights. It's been moved, seconded. Any discussion? Any more discussion?
Yeah,
Sorry, Director Manhas? Oh, okay. Is there any other discussion on that? I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Carrying on now to, and there was another question that I had. We super appreciate Mr. Coleman, aka MacGyver, on on the hydraulic seats and a lot of other different things. But I wondered if you had mentioned to advocate. Are you looking for a motion from the commission to send to the board on the advocating that you were doing for the ministers or the MLA, Ms. Schrader?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would think that would be a move. I would like to suggest, if the commission was in agreement, a letter saying that civic theaters haven't been, we could work on the wording of it, but I do believe that message needs to get out, and it would look different coming from the CBRD board than it does from me in some ways. The regional district in Courtney Comox has sent a letter to their MLA and their MP, and the city of Nanaimo has done the same. And so I'm hearing from other municipalities that they're starting to do that too.
So I'm looking to the commission if there is a director that would also be willing to put in a motion and that effect, and also to support our employees. So I actually am turning to Director Nicholson. Do you have a resolution to that effect? Or we can have it drafted, but we
I'll
need.
move it.
Okay, well, we need something on the floor. Director Nicholson?
You're on mute.
She's looking for the button. Tom, do you have something that we could, oh, there we are. Director Nicholson.
I move we request the board to write a letter outlining the issue with civic theaters and lack of funding to continue.
Thank you so much. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any other questions on that? Director Duncan.
The motion should also include that it's going to the MLA and to the MP.
Yes, I think we all agree with that, where it's going. Okay, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Schrader. And if there's anything else, no other questions, we'll move on to the next report. Moving on now to a verbal report from the manager of the Cowichan Community Center. Go ahead, Ms. Askham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When we met in July, summer camps had just started and participation was showing a strong beginning. The level of participation in summer camps was very strong throughout the summer, with the exception of a couple of specialty camps that were mostly computer related. All of the camps were full for the entire season. And so for us, it was a really successful first venture back from the perspective of the staffing, the participation, and all of the health protection perspectives. Our facility safety plan and the process for picking up and dropping off children in a kind of a locked facility went very well. In mid-August then, when we had the new chiller up and running, we installed the ice, and some of our regular summer users were back right away. We also restarted some public skating sessions at that time, with the requirement that even though it is generally considered a drop-in program, people pre-register so that we can manage the numbers and stay within our facility safety plan. Until September 8th, the dressing rooms were not available to user groups, either for the multipurpose hall, but especially for the arena. And that was in order to reduce choke points and ensure that user groups weren't crossing paths. In addition, we instituted 45-minute gaps between ice bookings to help manage people. So the facility safety plan and user group safety plans have served us well in being able to offer some limited services with the doors still primarily locked. And then this past Tuesday, we opened more broadly with 2 of the 3 exterior entrances unlocked for the bulk of the day, and Monday to Friday in-person service available at the reception center from 9 till 5. Ambassadors now greet people coming to the facility to confirm the purpose of their visit and review the health protocols with them before they enter the building. And then they help direct them to their destination. We're starting to accept more room rentals, and programs have started up as a result as well. We don't anticipate this ambassador service carrying on indefinitely, but that it is a next step for us in getting the public comfortable with purposeful visits to the center, and if they haven't been before, knowing the fastest route to get to their destination within the center. And so that is really helping. Also, as of this past Tuesday, our arena began to pilot the use of dressing rooms and at the same time reduce the gap between bookings from 45 minutes to 30 minutes. that's an effort to provide more access for more users and more services for those users while maintaining safety protocols. And we are acting as a pilot for, I guess, a number of arenas, not just our own CVRD ones, but we are one of the few arenas in the province that is beginning to offer the use of dressing rooms at this time. So we'll be able to help our colleagues. We're very lucky in this building because we have large dressing rooms and wide hallways, and there are a lot of places that couldn't even begin to think about doing this. So we're very fortunate, and in fact, that means our community and our users are the fortunate ones to be able to have access to this kind of a place to play. Updates to the facility safety plan and the staff guidelines and user safety plans are all occurring in step with changes to public health orders and with provincially approved updates to sport-specific safety plans. So the tasks, of course, related to monitoring and adapting to and administering all of the public health orders and the sport-specific plans are complex and very time-consuming. And staff have, like many public services and businesses, pivoted to meet the challenges and are in a state of continual adjustment. We couldn't manage without guidance from our professional associations and continuing dialogue with our colleagues across the province. We've been so connected during this time with our provincial colleagues that it's been fantastic, supportive, but also encouraging, and we're all able to implement best practices much more quickly than we would have in another environment. So one of the blessings. I wanted to let you know that the September issue of the Valley Voice includes an article on the 20th anniversary of our Elder College program. And I understand that a similar article will appear next week in one of the Citizens issues. And so our thanks and kudos go to our programmer, Jennifer Carmichael, for her many years of commitment to supporting this unique service model. It's very rare and means that many hundreds of seniors in the Valley can participate in recreation programs at extremely affordable rates, which would otherwise be a barrier to them. I'm also pleased to announce that the competition for the Ticket Center supervisor position, which was formerly held for 27 years by Betsy Burr, well, I guess she wasn't in that job for 27 years, but she was with us for that long, is complete, and Leah Worth, who has worked for us for a while, has assumed the position. Because the theater isn't operating, Ticket Center reception services are still restricted to Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 with minimum staffing. And we're keeping those levels low as we see how our business grows through the fall in the recreation and rentals part of it. And then I wanted to, John, I think you might want to jump in for some of this, but I wanted to let you know that John, Jim a little bit, and myself have been participating in the startup of a series of meetings with the school district, the municipality, and so far to a modest extent VIU, relative to our shared interests and the opportunities associated with the plans for the new school on the property behind us, which is also adjacent to VIU. So this group is really a resurgence of the Cowichan Place Partners, which came together a number of years ago to explore shared interests and opportunities, and has been resurrected recently in response to that go-ahead for the school. Some of the topics that we have discussed or plan to discuss include parking, transit services, traffic flow patterns, gateway branding, and local area signage, along with program and service partnership opportunities. In one of the recent meetings, the topic of childcare services came up, and John shared with the group the plan of almost 10 years ago that suggested some space in the former Aquinas Center be modified to provide a childcare service in partnership with VIU. And while that plan didn't come to fruition, VIU continues to be interested in childcare services in the precinct. So the school district, who also value the delivery of childcare services on or near their properties, are also engaged. And along with that, the recently completed Cowichan Valley Childcare Needs Assessment and provincial funding to support construction of new childcare spaces seems well timed to support some sort of an initiative. And while it sounds like new construction is preferred and that VIU are interested in making some land available on their property for that new construction, we have agreed to meet with the school district and VIU to discuss how we can support an initiative. And so there'll be more info to come on that as that evolves. And then the last thing I just wanted to discuss with you is the fact that we do have 3 more commission meetings scheduled for the rest of the year, October, November, and December. December will be our budget meeting. And so while I'm anticipating that we'll be going ahead with October and November on an agenda-driven basis, I am curious to hear about whether or not it is your preference that we meet in person. Subsequent to a board, John? Was it a board agreement last night? It is possible, because we have a facility safety plan and big enough room spaces that would allow it, it would be possible for a future meeting to be held in person. And you don't have to decide about that now, but I just wanted to put it into your minds that we could do that in the future if it becomes your preference to electronic meeting. And then a last little bit with respect to the budget update that Kirsten provided. Yes, the other 3 functions that sit within this portfolio for the Cowichan Community Centre and Performing Arts Centre are anticipated to be in a not in a deficit position this year. And so we still anticipate that and expect then to round the year out well from the budget perspective. We've been able to control our expenses in response to decreased revenues. And we've had an extremely successful startup with respect to programs and services to date for the fall. Of course, nobody knows what's going to happen next, but we can be nimble and responsive to that as well.
Great report. Thank you so much. And a lot of information there. And I'm seeing no hands up. Is there anybody that has any questions? Director Manhas, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Ashcombe, thank you very much for your report. I thought it's good to see that you guys controlling your costs and will be in a positive position given the pandemic that we're in, which is great news. Thank you very much. You said you had formed an alliance or a group with school district, yourselves, and VIU. Have you any talks or discussions with the adjacent property owners adjacent to VIU and to the new school?
I think maybe John can answer that one.
Go ahead, Mr. Alexanga.
Through the chair to Director Manhas. So as Terry was talking about, this has been a discussion with Cowichan Place Partners for a number of years. So where we are today is the initiative is being led by the school district. So Tom Sparrow is the project manager on behalf of School District 79. He's been coordinating not only with the partners here, but any other relevant agencies. So I believe the school district may have had some discussions with other property owners, but that's really outside of our jurisdiction. So he's the one that's been coordinating input into the very concepts at this point before they get into indicative design. And so we've been able to provide input in a number of meetings. I really have to compliment the school district on their inclusivity through this process. And just to emphasize the point that Terry was making around childcare, that has been on the radar for 8 to 10 years now to potentially have childcare back at this site. It was potentially going to be in the neighborhood learning center portion of the new high school. However, they only have so much room and they are focused on Indigenous design. They're focused on science and technology and a health and wellness center. So they could not accommodate a childcare facility. Therefore, it's left to the Couch and Community Center and VIU to determine a best location if we're going to have one with the support of the school district. I'd like to emphasize that my understanding from the school district is the funding deadline is November the 2nd. So we will be expediting investigation into whether a childcare facility application is feasible in the next month or so, and we'll be keeping the commission informed.
Thank you.
I now have Director Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering if the new high school would qualify for any of the federal infrastructure money.
I'm not sure who could answer that if we don't have. Yeah, I don't know if. Oh, yeah, we don't really know. You'd have to ask the school district that one. I'm imagining, because I think this is all new. It's all new territory for everybody. That's just another added one. So we don't have an answer for you there, Director Duncan. Am I seeing any more hands up for questions for? Go ahead, Director Manhas.
Madam Chair, I think. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think to answer Mr. Duncan's, Director Duncan's question, I think that's all provincial funding for the school. I think the hospital is joint funding between the local community and the province, but this year the school is all 100% provincial funding. So that's up to them to get to see if there's any federal monies available.
Thank you. I'm also wondering if there's anybody here that would like to, at this moment, discuss electronic or not for our meetings. What is there a preference, or is there anybody that has any thoughts on that at the moment, now that it's been brought up? Director Nicholson?
I much prefer electronic meetings at this point.
Director Manhas and then Director Duncan.
Yeah, I prefer in-person meetings. I'm just, I don't know, fed up with all these meetings online. I prefer to meet face to face, actually.
Director Duncan.
If we're in a position to have in face-to-face meetings, I would like to have that too, because like Director Manhas, I'm pretty well sick of this Zoom stuff. But also, we have had a couple of in-person meetings at Duncan City Council, our committee of the whole meetings, but we did hold them in Centennial Park. A nice setting, but I don't know that we're going to have the same sort of weather for meetings in October. But that might be something to consider too. We were able to spread ourselves out and have a nice meeting in the park.
Go ahead, Director. Sorry.
I'm also sick of online meetings, but I do find this one convenient as it's in the middle of the day for a work day for me. That's all I'll say.
Thank you so much. I actually finding it meetings that are commission meetings, they're very helpful online. The longer meetings and other meetings, maybe not as much, but I'm good either way, but find that the electronic for the shorter meetings work really fine, so I don't have to travel in. Even environmentally, right? We all take our cars in for that 1 hour and that, but we can talk more about it. Looks like we're divided. I also believe that there could be, you could correct me, staff could correct me if we heard that there could be, we could have a combination of online and in person. Is that at all possible? Did I hear that somewhere along the line, Ms. Askham?
I'll look to Kirsten around this one, because I think we were thinking that the theater might provide us that opportunity, though I know it would mean that we would need technical staff in to make that happen.
Okay, so we could go ahead, Director Sowry.
I'm curious to hear what staff would prefer as well. I mean, it looks like everyone's calling in from home right now. So I'm wondering if it would be worth staff all going in for, I mean, these meetings are generally pretty short. So is it worth the time to travel in as well?
Staff, how are you feeling about the electronic? Do we have any comments? Ms. Ask?
Well, I'm at the building and so is John, and contrary to what it looks like, so is Brad. We've been at work. And we are happy to do whatever works for you. It's your commission, so that's just fine, whatever works for you guys.
Thank you. Director Duncan?
We have used FaceTime in our council meetings, so you can use your iPad to FaceTime into the meeting. That way you would get a mix if you want.
Yeah, I think this is something that we should maybe discuss online too for October, maybe between us, to see how many people feel comfortable meeting in person and not, and if there is ways of accommodating different. I'm pretty sure that in a park would not be accommodated by us, but we could look to see other ways. And right now we're all kind of finding our way through all of this. So, and a lot of people are not feeling comfortable and safe, and for some of their family members. So we really have to think about everybody here and how we're all feeling on this, because it's about safety. So then I think we can move on. Seeing no other questions for Ms. Askham, we move on to our R4, which is a report from the manager of Arts and Culture Division, revised reopening plan for the Couch and Performing Arts Center. And there is a recommendation, and go ahead, Ms. Schrader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the report is, as I alluded to before, asking for the Commission's approval to open the theater to up to 50 people in the theater house, which is the seating area, but also asking the Commission for the approval to amend that in accordance with what business the theaters are, in accordance to what the Provincial Health Authority is dictating and what other theaters are choosing to do. So, for example, other theaters now that we know of around the province are reopening, the nonprofits, with their abundance of grant funding for small shows, a modest season, but they're still reopening. And I'm not proposing that we would reopen with our presented season. So we're not investing in shows, but simply for some small rental opportunities. There may be a few groups who have expressed some interest in possibly renting the theater and doing a live streaming, but as well having up to 50 people in the theater house. So it would open up a little bit more business opportunity for us in the fall.
Director Duncan, go ahead, please.
I'll move the recommendation, please.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I will read the recommendation that the reopening of the Couch and Performing Arts Center with audiences of up to 50 people be approved. Number 2, that the staff be authorized to adjust the audience size in accordance with the directives from the Provincial Health Authority. That has been moved and seconded. Any more questions on that? Director Duncan.
Reading the report, there's some talk about doing some live streaming. I know from the live streaming event at the 39 Days tried, their key act, the Jim Burns Act, I checked in on it on opening night. They only had 42 people viewing it. So I don't really see that there's a lot of money in the live stream. So it might be something to take a close look at before we tout that as a real positive thing that we're able to do for people. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Sowry.
Thank you. I was just, can you refresh how many people are allowed in the back on the stage?
Yes, through the chair to you, Director Sowry. The Act Safe, which is a performing arts division of WorkSafe, a provincial organization, has determined that because there is no interchange between this backstage staff, the onstage performers, and the seated audience, they have designated those as separate areas. So therefore, the staff working backstage and the performers on stage itself is considered a separate area and does not need to be included in the number of 50, which is strictly for in terms of this report, the house, the seating area.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just curious what the number, like, do we have to establish a number of how many people could be in the back area? Or
Yes. Yes, through the chair to you, Director Sowry, the square footage has been calculated. And so based on 5 meters squared is the number we're going with when staff are moving around. When it's a seated situation, it's less. We're working at 2 meters, but in the lobby as well as backstage, because there's a lot of movement, we are calculating 5 meters squared. So it depends on how many people are in the show or in the backstage area. Sometimes they bring stage managers, but also we have a special temporary agreement that we've signed with IATSE, which is the technician of theater technical staff and our admin staff, and they have agreed to lower the number of minimum technical staff required for certain shows to allow the theater to be more affordable to rent, first of all, but also to reduce the number of people backstage. So it depends on the production requirements of that particular show, and then it's determined how many people need to be on the stage.
But it's the square footage really that guides the maximum.
Yes.
Thanks.
Mr. Elzinga, did you still need to speak?
I was just going to add to that, Madam Chair, that room capacities for all rooms at the Couch Community Center have been calculated. So Terry and her team for all the classrooms, Heritage Hall, Multipurpose Hall, Ice Surface, have calculated the square footage. The most in any one individual space can be 50. It may be less based on this 5 meter squared dimension for capacity.
Thank you. Director Manhas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Schrader, does the 50 include the ushers?
Through the chair to you, Director Manhas, no, it doesn't, because the ushers in the house, yes, but not if they're in this backstage area. So it depends where the ushers are. So in the house, yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
It looks like I can call the question. Seeing no other hands up, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Thank you so much. And we're moving on now, moving along. There's no unfinished business, no new business. Question period we don't have today. And I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Been moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you so much. This was my first community center chairing meeting, so thank you.
Thanks, Alexandra. Great job.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.